Hi there. Welcome everyone to our latest video. I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by Andy Hogg, and as you can see on the screen, the IT Trainer.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Andy. And what we're going to do today is Andy's just going to give us a few kind of hints and tips on getting the best out of using Excel. If you're anything like me, you use it and probably can do some basic stuff. No, there's lots of other stuff that you can do with it. Don't really know what to do. So it's like anything, any system like this. There's so much stuff that probably we don't use it to its full capability. So, do you just quickly introduce yourself, Andy, and kind of give a bit of background, but then we'll go on to Excel itself.
Super, Mike. Yeah, and thanks for this opportunity. Andy Hogg, the IT Trainer. We've been providing training courses in Microsoft for, would you believe, about 18 years now, and Excel and probably Outlook are probably our two best sellers, certainly in terms of tips and tricks, because as Mike quite rightly says, there's bits in Excel that you don't know exist, and it's all about saving time, less mouse clicks, and none of this will be too complicated. It's classed as sort of intermediate level stuff, so we're not going to get into the realms of things like pivot tables and VLOOKUPs, so don't panic on all that side of things. It's going to be short, little quick hit wins. I've got about 10 topics here, spend about 90 seconds, 2 minutes on each just to go through them very quickly. And as always, if you post your comments or get in touch with me afterwards, if there's anything you want to take a little bit further, then I'll be pleased to help if we can.
Sounds good to me, Andy. So do you want me to flick up your screen?
Share away, sir. That's wonderful. Forgive me looking right, ladies and gents, but I'm actually looking at my I'm looking at my Excel, so as we go. Mike, can you just confirm you can see the screen okay and you can see my mouse moving?
Yeah, I can see your cursor moving.
Wonderful. Okay, so throughout this session, ladies and gents, basically what's going to happen, I'm going to be playing with this made-up spreadsheet we've got here, which is salespeople in our imaginary widget making company, and in January they have made so many appointments to go and see these salespeople. So it's nothing more complicated than that. Nice and straightforward. At the moment we've got actually no calculation on this spreadsheet, it's only information. Dave Smith has an old 99 appointments in the south and 34 in the east, etc. Okay, now the first trick I want to show you is in terms of how you can auto sum, because one of the key features of Excel is the ability to calculate automatically, and I could click on there and I could add those four numbers together manually, i.e. equals B3 plus C3 plus D3 plus E3. That would work fine. However, if we had 100 regions, you want to be typing that in an equation with 100 variables, not really what's wanted. What you can do instead is to use something called auto sum. So if I move up here to the home ribbon, we can see we have the auto sum button here, and having selected the cell where I think I would like the result to go, then I go up here and I click on auto sum, and it actually puts in the total for us automatically. Now, Excel has a magic way of allowing you to repeat things, so something called autofill. And the key to autofilling is if you change the cursor shape by moving the mouse to a certain position. You will see as I move the mouse around here, it's a thick, fairly white cross, a Swiss cross. If I move the mouse to the bottom right-hand corner of the cell in question, it becomes a small black cross. And from that position, I can drag down, and then I get the total for everybody without having to do anything special. It's a matter of seconds to do that. Likewise, I've auto-filled across there. I can auto-fill down. So if I click on these cells here, this cell here, once again, I can auto-sum. Ants march around the cells in question to say, do you want to actually perform that calculation? Yes, I do. I can press enter, and then likewise, I can auto-fill to the right-hand side and total accordingly. So that's a matter of a few mouse clicks where we've actually got the sum for each of our salespeople and each of our regions. I can quicken that up even more. So what I'm going to do is remove those calculations, right mouse click, clear contents, and I'm going to remove these calculations as well. Right mouse click, clear contents, straightforward enough. And then if I highlight to the right and below each of my individual figures in here, I'm reserving the space for the autosum to go in here, and I'm reserving the space for the autosum in there. All I need to do, one single mouse click, is come up here and it does them all with one mouse click for you. So this is typical of Excel. Nice, short, sweet way of doing things without having to do any detailed equations. It's important if you understand Excel that you know how to do those detailed equations. However, it can be as simple as that. Now, in Excel, we either have in each of these cells here, these rectangles here are called cells, probably aware of that. In each of these cells here, we have information or calculation. And what we've just put in is calculations in those cells there and calculations in those cells there. The classic mistake that occurs in Excel is a piece of information is, beg your pardon, a calculation is overwritten by a piece of information. What do I mean by that? Okay, Mr. Jones comes along and he says, hello, Mr. Sales Manager. I didn't make 67 appointments in the West. I made 77. My total should be 256, not 246. And I look through the old emails and I find, yeah, that is the case. That should be 256. I purposely made a mistake there. The mistake I've made is I've overwritten the calculation with a piece of information. And now it doesn't matter what I type in these numbers here against Mr. Jones's appointments, because I've overwritten the calculation and it will stay at 256. Now, with a spreadsheet as small as that, you could probably pick that up and you'd probably spot the error. However, if our spreadsheet was as wide as Barnsley and as deep as Rotherham, there's a fair chance that we wouldn't be able to spot that. So how do we quickly tell what is an information and what is calculation? The trick here, if you move the mouse to the formulas ribbon up at the top, 3/4 of the way across in the formula editing area, we see a button called Show Formulas. And if you also notice, I've got it up here on my quick access toolbar. It's a really useful button. And by the way, if you want to add something to the quick access toolbar up here, all you need to do is right mouse click on the button in question and you have the option to add to quick access toolbar. And you can do that from Word, you can do it from Excel, you can do it from Outlook, you can do it from PowerPoint Publisher. Any of your standard Microsoft product sets, you can actually build your set of icons up here that always appear on the screen, no matter where you are in your spreadsheet ribbons. So back to displaying what is information and what is calculation. So formulas ribbon, I have a button here called Show Formulas. And remember, if you will please, I've purposely made an error. So hopefully the Show Formulas button will help me spot that error. So if I click it now, as it says on the tin, it shows the formulas we've got behind the cells. So there's no formulas here. This is all information. This is all information. These are correct, but hopefully you'll be able to spot here some B3 to E3, 256, some B5 to E5. Clearly, as you saw earlier, I've overwritten the calculation in there with a piece of information. And the error correction is very, very straightforward indeed. All you do, click on the cell. As we did previously, we auto-filled by changing the shape of the cursor, dragging down. This is now the correct formula, and having got the correct formula, I can choose the show formulas either from here or from my quick access toolbar, and I go back to my normal way of operating. And I should have made this change 77 instead of changing the totals. So the key learning point there is using the Show Formulas button up here. Marvelous. Right. Next little topic I want to talk about is validating data. In our widget making company world here, what we're going to say is I'm only going to allow column H to contain certain values, i.e. I'm validating the data before as it's typed in to make sure it's correct. Right, so column H is going to only allow certain values. My data validation is on the data ribbon up at the top here, which is kind of logical. And if you're doing this on your own Excel in the office, if you have a laptop, for example, you may not see the word data validation there because your screen isn't wide enough. You may just see this little symbol here, which has got the a no entry sign and a tick, i.e. you're validating the data. And as it says, pick a list of rules to limit the type of data that can be entered into the cell. So if I click on data validation here, you can see at the moment we are allowed any value. If I change that any value for example, to a list. What I'm going to say here, I'm going to type in my allowed values into this source box here inside this dialog area. So I'm going to say I'm only going to have certain colors in here. So I'm going to say red, green, and I comma separating the values that I'm allowed in those cells. So what I'm saying here is column H is only allowed the value red, green, blue, and I'm going to click OK. Now, when I click on any cell in here, I get the red, green, blue option, and it's only letting me pick those. If I pick one that is an invalid color, i.e. not on my list, press enter, I get an appropriate error message to say this entry is not valid. Pick another color. Now, had we got time, we could go into a little bit more detail on this, and there's nothing too complicated about it. How you can change that error message to make it something more meaningful. For example, you could get it to say incorrect color, choose the color from the drop-down box and allow you to retry it. And there's other ways we can actually define the data. That's called named ranges. But for the time we've got today, that's just a nice straightforward example about how you can restrict values inside your cell or cells by doing a series of data validations. Because there are lots of other types of data validation. If we go up here, you can see we have it must be a whole number, it must be a decimal, it must be a date, it must be a time, etc., etc. There are several ways that you can validate data. So this is particularly useful, this data validation technique, if you're sending away a spreadsheet for others to complete, your suppliers, your colleagues, your customers, and when you get it back, often the values are incorrect. It might be J Smith or it might be John Smith. They are the two same entries, so you can restrict it to be John Smith and not J Smith, if that's what you need to do. Okay. So, data validation. I say there's far more to it than we've just had time to do there, but that's a pretty key feature on one of the intermediate level Excels. Lovely. So I'll just delete that and talk about new feature. Now, just want to touch briefly on charts and graphs. That used to be very complicated. It is now very, very straightforward, provided you select the correct data. So I'm going to use our sales group, sales information here, and I'm going to produce a chart or graph of the regions against the salespeople. Now, a common mistake with charts and graphs is selecting the incorrect data. Because if I did this and included the totals in my selection, if I was doing a bar chart, then I would have on a Manhattan skyline, I'd have lots and lots of small buildings and a big building at the top because I've incorrectly selected the total. So the key to Excel helping you in getting the correct format for your chart or graph is to pick the data correctly. So I'm including the names of the salespeople, I'm including the regions, and I've just got the totals number of appointments they've made in each of those regions, not including the total. It used to be really complicated to do this. It's not very complicated anymore, because what we need to do is go to the insert ribbon, and you see halfway across the insert ribbon you have this chart area here. Again, if you have a laptop or a smaller screen, this may not be showing in full detail, but you get these pictures, and if you hang the mouse over the pictures, you see what options you are given. However, I strongly recommend that you go to recommended charts, because what Excel is doing is looking at the data I've selected here, and if I click on recommended charts, it's given me what it believes to be the best fit for the data I've selected in various guises. Invariably, I pick the top one because it's really nice and easy to change it anyway. So if I just click on the top one and click OK, we have an instant chart based on the data I've selected. And I'm just going to drag that to the right slightly so we can see the data hand in hand with the chart. The beauty about this and allowing Excel to recommend a chart style is it invariably gets it right, but also what it does up here, it allows me to change the chart style to a different style if I want to, simply by clicking on the chart design ribbon and the format ribbon. You see these ribbons are up here now. If I click away from the chart, those ribbons don't exist anymore, which is logical. And again, clicking back on here puts these two new ribbons up, and I can say, do I like that style? Do I like this style? Do I like this one with the black background? And by clicking on the More button here, you can actually have some other selections you may wish to choose. And this is just a personal preference thing, but it's so easy to change them. So I'm just going to pick that one for the sake of picking style 3. It doesn't matter. If I don't like the colours, I could go and change the colours. If I would like to reverse the row and the column, i.e. the regions become the names and the names become regions, I would switch the row and the column. I can change the chart type. All this now is really obvious. It didn't used to be straightforward. It's really nice and straightforward now in terms of how you produce your chart or graph. And what I really like about it, any changes are real time. So if I pick Fiona Jagger's sales figures here, that 91, and I change it to be obviously different, if I make that 500 and press enter, you will see your chart changes accordingly and adjusts accordingly, because you can actually see here 500 and the rest are really small. I'll put that back down to a sensible number so my chart looks sensible again. Bring the mouse over the chart, and you can have a button over here which is called filter, and you've probably seen this sort of thing before. If you click on the filter button, then this allows me to select and unselect from various regions. So I might want to just pick 3 of my salespeople in 2 regions. This way I would untick the 2 regions I want and untick the salespeople that I don't want, for example, and then it just applies accordingly with the salespeople I've selected. Really useful little feature. Yeah, okay, and I'd apply and it would do it. So the mystery of charts and graphs hopefully cleared a little bit for you. It isn't that complicated at all, and that's nice and easy in terms of how you would pick that chart or graph up now, and you could copy it and then you could paste it away into a PowerPoint presentation, a Word document, wherever you wanted it to go. Really nice and straightforward. Okay. I'll just shuffle that to one side, and I'm conscious of time, so just want to talk very briefly as a last subject for today, as time's going on, something called conditional formatting. Conditional formatting actually allows the cell format to change based upon the value in the cell, and it's used on a frequent basis. Therefore, it's up on the home ribbon up here. Here we are, conditional formatting. So what I'm going to ask Excel to do by way of conditional formatting is to show me instantly, without me having to do anything, which salespeople haven't got enough appointments in January. So I'm going to pick an arbitrary number of 30, for example, and I want to highlight those salespeople who have 30 or less appointments in that month. I'm going to go to conditional formatting up here, and I'm going to do a rule. And my rule is going to say less than. And I'm going to pick this arbitrary number of 30, which I've just mentioned, and I'm going to take the option here that says, if this value in these cells here is less than 30, then I take this. I can take any number I want, in any format I want in terms of what style I want. We'll have this light red with dark red text. That looks fine to me. Red, danger, not sufficient appointments made, and I can click OK. Now, if you look here, you will see any value of less than 30 has got this format accordingly. I usually check this. As good as Excel is, I always try and check things. So if that number wasn't 23, that number instead was 45, that's fine. The formatting disappears. If that number wasn't 99, that number was 12, and the formatting applies again. Really easy, really straightforward. Just to illustrate how you might use this again, you may wish to put on another condition that says, of these salespeople, who is performing well, who's got lots of appointments in January. So likewise, I would set a rule up. This time I would say if the value is greater than 70, it would be daft to take it red on red again, because how would you distinguish between the two? This time I'm going to say green on green and click OK. And now you see instantly we can tell who's performing well, who's performing not so well. again, you could quite rightly argue on a small spreadsheet like this, you'd spot it. But again, if it's 200 wide and 1,000 deep, this is how you can get Excel essentially to do the work for you. Another feature of conditional formatting, another feature of conditional formatting is there's a new features, relatively new features now, and these are called data bars and icon sets. Now, if you crunch the numbers and that's all you do, these won't be of interest to you. However, if you want some sort of representation of those numbers rather than just having them as numbers, what I can do here is go to conditional formatting, and I can take a feature called data bars. You have 12 options on data bars, and that's why I've made column F fairly wide, because it draws a little histogram below the cell to say, again, 255 being the biggest one in this case and 70 being the smallest. And you can have green ones, and you can have red ones and orange ones, and then you can have solid fill ones and clear ones, etc. All sorts of options you can take for your data bars should you want them. The alternative to data bars is icon sets. Similar sort of technique here in terms of it splits it into 4 quarters. Green, you're doing well. Red, you go on and down, and you've got 2 sets of yellow there. And again, 5 options, 4 options, ticks, flags, crosses, all sorts of options in terms of how you may wish to represent trends in data. And I'm just going to pick that one accordingly. Once again, charts and graphs, conditional formatting, really easy to put in place. Nothing complicated about them at all. And a real quick way to show data trends quickly and easily. Marvelous stuff. Lovely, guys. So I've had 20 minutes, which is plenty much of your time. There are a whole plethora of other features like that, which I can quickly show you. But I just want to give you a snapshot of some of the features that are really nice and straightforward to understand, and will give you an instant return on your investment in Excel. So that's it from me. Thank you for your time, ladies and gents. Great to see you.
Thank you. I know we had a couple of comments when you were going through there. So that was the wrong one. So from Mike Roberts there saying absolutely awesome tips. Thank you, which is great.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
And very simple and very similar as well from Lindsay. So about really useful tips. Thank you. And that was the whole point of this session, wasn't it, Andy, to kind of give people just an insight into the types of things, because like I said, it's infinite. We could have done this for pretty much a full day. We could have kept
and the rest, yeah. But the key thing here is certainly with all of the Microsoft products, you won't learn this if you watch the screen and do it. You will learn this by doing it. You know, we don't learn to drive by reading the highway code. We get in the car in the driver's seat, we press the pedals and we turn the wheel and go. And Excel and all of the Microsoft products is really like yes, you can understand what I've demonstrated here, but the only real way to learn it is to actually do it. And this is where our workshops facilitate lots and lots of interactive learning, because that's important to us. Lovely. Thanks very much.
That's a good point as well, Andy, around obviously if people have seen something here they want to kind of have a go at. We'll be making this recording available on our YouTube channel as well. So if you kind of want to recap a little bit and have a look through it, because obviously there's a lot to take in one go and remember it also, but we'll put it on there for people to look at as well. Just one final question really from me, Andy, is if people do want to find out more about what the work you do and all the training courses and all that kind of stuff, whether it's Excel or other stuff, where's the best places to hunt you?
Yeah, fine. If the easiest way, if you do a Google search and type the I.T Trainer Sheffield into Google, sorry, you West Yorkshire people. Yeah, come down South Yorkshire. But no, if you type in the I.T Trainer Sheffield into Google, then you'll find us on the first page and go on our website. And there's a contact us and my contact details and things of that nature. So that's the best way, easiest way you can get hold of us.
Well, don't worry, Andy. We don't hold it against you too much being from South. We're not too offended by you. Don't worry.
Yeah, no, I'll set me ferret on you if you don't watch out.
No, thank you. Obviously, kind of following up what else has said about thank you for the tips. It's really useful. I think it's one of those solutions, just like a lot of things, where you just improve all the time is a good way to be as well. New things.
And often folks are going to a workshop. The comment afterwards, I didn't know what I didn't know. Yeah, I think it's education, isn't it? And they say there's nothing too complex about it. Just give it a whirl. Lovely.
That's great.
Thanks for the opportunity, Mike. Brilliant.
We'll be on the YouTube channel. So thank you, Andy.
Take care. See you soon.